We're going to talk about the names you need to know.
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, we got a ton to get to today because this is a massive weekend coming up for Arizona basketball. Now, one of the big things that Arizona fans are love doing is following the recruiting scene, following what's going on there, and that's exactly what we're going to be talking to you about here. All right, first and foremost, we're going to talk about the in-state kids that Arizona fans need to keep an eye on. Then we're going to talk about some national guys. Now, again, you got to remember, when it comes to recruiting, Tommy Lloyd is a very picky guy. So just because somebody's a five-star kid or he's a top 15 player, Duke's offered him, doesn't necessarily mean that Tommy Lloyd is going to offer him because, again, and we're going to keep talking about this over the years, it's all about fit for Tommy Lloyd. Who fits in where? He doesn't want to disrupt chemistry or anything like that. So let's get down to business here. The first name that everybody needs to know is Cody Williams. Cody Williams is a 6'6" wing out of Gilbert Perry High School. Now, if you say that sounds familiar, it's because it is. It's because you're a smart person. Dylan Anderson, incoming U of A freshman, is from Gilbert Perry, and he is obviously a guy that Arizona's hoping can contribute, probably not next year, but in the years after that. Big deal, important guy. But Cody Williams on a little bit of a different trajectory. He is 6'6". He's very athletic. He can handle the ball a little bit. Some people say he's a point guard. They're wrong. He's not a point guard. He also comes from basketball royalty in that his brother, Jalen Williams, went to Santa Clara and after 2 years is now in the NBA draft, and he's likely to be a first-round pick. So, that be that as it may. Lloyd has not offered Williams yet. I would imagine, though, that after he watches Williams, that offer probably will be extended, mainly because Cody Williams checks off every single box. He's a player you win with. He's a high caliber guy. And on top of that, his family they're good people. They're good folks. It's a good fit. So we'll keep you up to date on how Cody Williams performs up there. But that's the first guy you need to know. All right. Now, the next one you need to know, a guy named Styles Phipps. Besides having one of the best names out there, Styles Phipps is also an incredibly good basketball player. He's a little bit different in that he goes to St. Mary's High School. I never really thought I would get to the point where, it's different that a kid goes to St. Mary's, a prep school, as opposed to, a national prep school like a Compass or something to that effect. But Phipps can play. 6'1" point guard, very strong, very sturdy. The shot needs to improve a little bit. Top 75 type kid right now, something like that. But there's certainly room for an upward trajectory with him. ASU's already offered him. Phipps is definitely Arizona good. He's a guy, though, to certainly keep an eye on, mainly because he doesn't have an Arizona offer. But if Tommy Lloyd likes what he sees, he could certainly be a guy that would be an offer, mainly because, again, comes from a good family, talented kid. And when possible, you always want to try to keep the native Arizonans home. Styles Phipps is that type of guy. It is funny, though, because back in the day, St. Mary's used to be the school that would attract all of the really talented kids that wanted to go to a better program. And that ranged from the Fontenot brothers to Jared Bayless to Channing Frye. Now, if you see a kid at St. Mary's who isn't at Compass or at, Bella Vista, something like that, or Hillcrest, it's like, a little bit different. They're hanging out with their common folk. So, again, we'll keep you up to date on Styles Phipps and exactly what he does. Another guy that we certainly need to keep an eye on is Koa Pete. Koa Pete is the best player in the state. If the name Pete sounds familiar, it's probably because you watch a lot of college football. His brother, Andrews Pete, was a first-round pick of the of the New Orleans Saints, went to Stanford to play basketball, Stanford to play football. His brothers, Todd and Cassius, Todd went to Nebraska, Cassius went to Michigan State. They both played football there as well. Koa is the last one here. Koa is taller than all of them already. He's built a little bit differently, and that's obviously why he's a basketball player. But Koa Pete is one of the top 5 players nationally in his class. Again, he's only going to be a sophomore, so he's a youngster out there. But again, 6'8", 6'9" almost, 215 pounds, a very sturdy athlete, super athletic, and another one that comes from a really good family. Tommy Lloyd's already offered Koa Pete, so that shows you that he's crossed off a lot of boxes besides just being a good basketball player. We'll keep an eye on him for sure and give you a lot of updates about him, mainly because Koa Pete is going to be, or he plays on the same high school team, Gilbert Perry, that Dylan Anderson and Cody Williams both perform for. So he's a big-time deal, where some of these other guys, you have to you worry about, all right, they need to play well in front of Sean Miller. They play well in front of Tommy Lloyd. They need to do this. They need to do that. This is a little bit different in that Koa Pete doesn't need to play well in front of Tommy Lloyd, because Tommy Lloyd already knows what Koa Pete can do, and all of that due diligence has been checked off. So again, we'll keep you up to date on how Pete does, but I would imagine with the way that Koa Pete plays, that those will probably be good reviews. All right, another guy here, Elijah Williams. Monty Williams' son is a 6'6". Well, he's going to be a freshman this year at Scottsdale Christian, and he's an absolute monster. Watch any of the YouTube clips that are out there about him. Watch anything of that regard, and you could see a kid in 8th grade who is dunking on people, who has a perimeter skill set that is advanced, to put it mildly, and he looks like one of the better players in his class. Again, it'll be interesting to see how he develops, but when your father played in the NBA, when he's currently the coach of an NBA franchise, and he is, one of the, played in the NBA for 10 years. Those are always very promising signs going forward. Elijah Williams, again, very young, but a guy that I can tell you that the U of A coaching staff will keep an eye on for a variety of reasons, mainly because he's good. There's some connections there. And Tommy Lloyd, unlike some other coaches, views Arizona, I believe, as a destination job. I don't believe that he plans on going anywhere. So I do think that Arizona will keep an eye on him, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if Arizona actually extended an offer, because it's not like you have to worry about the background or anything like that with Tommy Lloyd. Okay. Or excuse me, Elijah Williams. Okay. Now, let's get to BetOnline. BetOnline has been around for a long time. There's a reason that people go to BetOnline to be able to check out everything. It's because you can find the best odds, you can find the best props, and it's easy to navigate. Nobody has ever gone on BetOnline Sportsbook and said, man, this thing's hard to find. I can't find what I want. Everything's there. You got futures, you got props, you got odds. Just check it out. BetOnline Sportsbook. This is kind of your one-stop shop right there. Once you use it, you'll never use another sportsbook again. That's what's unique about the BetOnline Sportsbook. Check it out. We will be right back with you. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats. I'm your host, Mike Luke. All right, we're talking a lot of recruiting. Well, basically, this entire show is going to be recruiting, so get used to it. We just broke down the in-state kids right now. Now, let's talk a little bit about some of the national players to keep an eye on, because there are many. And there's going to be always some players. Again, this stuff is fluid. It's not stagnant. There will be other players that either catch Arizona's eyes or take their game to the next step. And Tommy Lloyd starts, moving around and says, yeah, I like that guy right there. But first and foremost is Carter Bryant. All right. Carter Bryant is one of the handful of best players in the entire 2024 class. And another player that when you watch it, He checks off pretty much every single box in that he is 6'7", silky smooth out there. Basketball comes naturally to him. And honestly, he can just go. He is a good fit. You win basketball games with a player like Carter Bryant out of Fountain Valley. He has been recruited by Arizona for a while. He obviously has a scholarship. Tommy Lloyd will be front and center because, again, when a coach goes to one of these things, you need to remember that they go there so they can be seen. Yes, Tommy Lloyd is going to these events so that he can watch players, for sure. But it's also important when you prioritize a player that they see you. Sean Miller was great at this. Whenever Sean Miller prioritized a kid, he was at every single game. He was there early. He was there watching, and he wasn't on his phone. He wasn't, gossiping with other coaches. He was there to let that kid know that he was his top priority. That's what the really good coaches do at these events. The ones that aren't Mike Krzyzewski or John Calipari, where you just walk right in there and your reputation precedes you. So that's what is really big in these events right here. So another guy, too, to keep an eye on will be Devin Williams. Devin Williams is much different than Carter Bryant. And the Devin Williams is 6'10", very, very raw, but also has some real potential. He's the type of guy that coaches don't want to pass, essentially, because, well, if we don't recruit him, being that he is a good kid, that he is athletic, this could be one that's going to come back and bite us in the future. No coach wants to be that way. No coach at all wants to be that way. Devin Williams is that guy. Again, he's a player that could not be a high D1 player. He's a player that could play in the NBA. And that's why these events are very important for guys like a Tommy Lloyd to be able to watch him, see how he moves, see how he interacts with others. Because if you don't recruit him, USC is going to, maybe your Santa Claras, stuff like that. And again, that doesn't mean that you need to recruit him, but you also don't want to end up losing to a kid that you probably could have gotten, but you didn't get your eval straight. So Devin Williams, another guy that we will be keeping a close eye on and that we're going to be talking about a great deal. All right. Now, there's some other kids as well that they need to keep an eye on. Point guard position. You might be thinking to yourself, well, wait a second here. You got Kylan Boswell already. You got Kirk Kriisa, who's still got 2 more years if he wants it. Why are they recruiting point guard? Actually, 3 more years, I believe, if he wants it. Why are they recruiting point guards to the extent that they are? Well, it's actually fairly simple. In Tommy Lloyd's offense, he's about letting his guys go, but you don't really need a point guard per se. Everybody's going to be handling the ball. Everybody's going to be initiating offense, all of that. So I look at the point guard position, and I think this is something that'll probably be addressed every year to every other year at the bare minimum. And so, yes, you've got Kylan Boswell coming in 2023, but why not look at 2024, see if there's a kid that really grabs your attention. One of those guys they'll be watching is a kid named Didon Thomas out of Las Vegas. Didon Thomas is about 6 foot, maybe 5'11". Not an elite level recruit, but certainly a top 75 guy. Has a lot of ability. Nobody's ever doubted what he can do. The main thing with him is just fit, especially too because he's a little bit of a smaller guard. Some coaches have a little bit of a hesitancy towards that, but if you can play, you can play. Tommy Lloyd has certainly shown that he's going to err on the side of guys that can play and are good fits. So Didon Thomas, another guy that we will be keeping an eye out for. All right. Now, before we get into the home run stretch here, we're going to wrap up some loose ends right here. Also, give a little bit of a quick shout out to Jed Fish and just, again, give you a little bit of a primer about what's about to go on right here that we'll be keeping you up to date on Locked On Wildcats. But first, I'm going to be driving up to Glendale. You know what I'm glad that I got on my side? Rock Auto. RockAuto.com is your online shop for every auto part. Why go to some auto place that's going to overcharge you by 8,000% when you could go to rockauto.com and they will take care of everything for you? Whatever part you need, get that part. Heck, even if you don't know what you're doing with the car, Why not get Rock Auto, get that part, and then take it to a mechanic you trust, because at least you save probably a couple $100 just off the part before you even get into the labor. RockAuto.com, too, has saved a ton of people, a ton of money, a ton of frustration. It saved my friend John Schuster frustration. It saved myself frustration. That's where you want to be, though. RockAuto.com. Check it out, because everybody's there. And this is the way, especially in this economy right now, that's where you want to go to be able to save some money. If you can save some money out there, why not save it when you can? Go to RockAuto.com. We'll be right back with you. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats. I'm your host, Mike Luke. All right, we broke down about 10 to 12 guys that you need to know during these evaluation processes. Now, there's a lot of people that wonder, well, why do you really need to do this? Why can't they just play for their high school teams? Because the thing is, especially in the year 2022, this is where kids really get exposure. This is where kids really get seen. And you hear all the time someone say, well, the AAU program is absolutely, or AAU life is absolutely destroying basketball. It's not. AAU basketball is just like high school basketball, in that you're going to get some good coaches, you're going to get some bad coaches, but you're also going to get coaches, though, and you're going to get exposure that a lot of kids wouldn't otherwise have. Everybody knows somebody from back in the 80s or the 90s that probably was a Division I player, but either their coach didn't push them, they didn't get the, whatever. AAU essentially assures that kids, well, some will be overlooked. By and large, the majority of kids are going to be recruited at the level that they should be, because the exposure is there. And it's just like anything in life. Knowledge is important. Nobody says, man, I had a little too much information there, unless it's something you don't want to hear about, obviously. So again, the AAU scene is something that's good. And I would imagine, too, that the list of the guys that I gave you, some of those will be cut when we're talking Monday. Some of those, there will be names that will be added to that. And that's what's fun about the whole recruiting scene, is that it's a constantly fluid motion. It's kind of there's a chemistry involved until you get the right pieces. And that's where I think, that's where I think Arizona lies right now. It's a big time for Tommy Lloyd. So again, best of luck. We'll be up there videos and everything like that. All right. Before we sign off right here, I want to talk about Jedd Fisch. Fisch has brought in a slew of commitments. Solomon Thomas, cornerback out of California, being the latest. It's a little bit different, though, than last year's class, where you had the gaudy 4 and 5, even a 5 next to the name. But the most important thing, though, is that Jedd Fisch is getting the kind of players he wants. He's going to bulk up on both sides of the line. We've talked about that before, and there's nothing wrong with that. The main thing is, when you bulk up on both sides of the line, is there's not a lot of highly rated linemen, because quite frankly, it's such a unique position. And again, as we've talked about, you go to Alabama, a lot of these kids, there's probably 5 to 6 or 7 of them each year. You go to Alabama, they're going to Texas, wherever it is, that's where they're going. Arizona needs to be able to recruit players on the line, if they can't get those kids, that they can develop. And all of these kids on the line, long athletes, rangy athletes, guys that when you get with Tyler Owens, who's one of the absolute best in the game, he can change their body type. And that's where certainly what you're looking for right there. So again, Jedd Fisch knows what he's doing. You're going to see some more highly rated kids. Don't worry. There's a lot of people that go for it, and they're based off stars. Keep in mind already, the most important position in every class is the quarterback position. Braden Dorman, 4-star kid out of California, big deal. Obviously a player that could be a multi-year starter at Arizona. He's that type of kid. So, Fisch gets it. Fisch wants to get the highest rated kids, but he's also got to be practical about how he's going about it. And there's one thing that he's shown. He's got a staff of recruiters. He knows who he's going to prioritize. And from there, that's where Fisch has got to coach him up and be able to make his money. All right, everybody. Really appreciate you guys. As always, we'll be back with you Monday, because there's a ton to break down. These events are long days. They're very long days, but it's a good time. It's just good to get involved with all of this and to just be around and be seen, talk with coaches. We'll let you guys know everything that goes down We'll be back with you Monday. You've been listening to Locked On